Prospect Heights and Elmgrove Village areas. We thank the Arlington Heights Memorial Library for its wonderful partnership helping bring this and other community forum series free programming to you. We hope in the next 45 minutes you feel more informed and that you leave ready to make a plan to vote. A couple of preliminaries before I turn it over to our MC. Please silence your cell phones and all other electronic devices for the duration of the forum. We have limited time, and out of respect for the candidates and your fellow audience members who took their time to be here, we ask that you hold your applause until the end of the forum. No questions will be taken from the floor, and no interruptions, heckling, personal attacks, or other disruptions are appropriate conduct at these forums. Together, especially in our hometown communities, we can and will engage in civil discourse. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to honor our nation and celebrate the right to vote in our Constitution. To lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance is a very special guest, a volunteer Girl Scout, Emily Collett. Emily is a Gold Award Girl Scout. For anyone unfamiliar with it, the Gold Award is similar to the earning the rank of an Eagle Scout. To earn the Gold Award, Emily worked from start to finish to create the 450 square foot native pollinator garden encircling the Matthew Ives track sign at South Middle School, which is a sustainable project and a living example of sustainable function and beauty in our community for everyone to enjoy. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Nicolle, and thank you for your contribution to helping the environment. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Plant. I'm one of the members in our League of Women Voters. Thank you so much for attending today. It's a gorgeous day where you could be doing other things, so thank you. The League of Women Voters was nationally founded in 1920 out of the suffragist movement, winning women the right to vote. Our League of Women Voters here turned 70 years old this year. The League is a non-partisan organization that in all its years has never supported nor opposed any candidate for office. The League's purpose is to promote responsibility through the informed and active participation of you, the citizens. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the candidates running for office, their knowledge, their skills, their solutions for the issues facing our community. We are very pleased to offer this service to you. Today, we will hold 3 separate forums. As Shannon mentioned, the first forum right now will be the candidates running for the 53rd District of the Illinois House of Representatives. Later at 2:15, the second forum will be the candidates running for the 27th District of the Illinois Senate. And finally, at 3:30, the afternoon will end with the third forum, candidates running for the 54th District of the Illinois House of Representatives. All of the candidates today were invited by email, phone, personal delivery, mail before today. The forum will be recorded in its entirety for lead use and education for the public. The candidates have all agreed to this. We want to thank our student volunteer for today's forum and recording, and to all of our student volunteers. We will also publicly post a link at our website, LWV-AH, League of Women Voters, Arlington Heights.org, on the recording to our YouTube page as soon as it's available. If you don't mind, please hold all of your applause until the very end, and please refrain from demonstrating support for opposition to a candidate. The League is dedicated, as Shannon says, to civil discourse, politics. Please help us with that mission. Please be respectful of all the candidates and of each other. There is space outside of the room for candidates to speak to attendees after the forum. Campaign literature will be available on the table in the lobby. No campaign signs may be posted. So right now, I'm very pleased to introduce our moderator for today's forum, Jan Dorner, who's very experienced and wonderful at this. She's not a voter within any of the districts of the forums here today. Turning it over to Dan. Thank you.
One moment, please. We're working on the volume of the mic. How's this? Is this better?
Better.
Thank you. My name is Jan Dorner, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst, as you heard. So please remember to turn off cell phones and other electronic devices. No campaign literature may be passed out in this room. And feel free to put your campaign bling on again once you leave the room. Note cards and pencils have been provided on which the audience may submit your questions. Questions will be screened only for duplication, clarity, and appropriateness to the office being discussed. League volunteers are wearing buttons identifying themselves. Please signal a League volunteer when your question is ready for submission. Also, signal a volunteer if additional note cards are needed. Realize that we may not get to all questions. The League of Women Voters is not responsible for verifying the accuracy of the statements that candidates make in this forum. This forum is for the candidates running for the office of Illinois State Representative for the 53rd District for a term of 2 years. Both candidates participating have agreed to abide by the ground rules set forth to this forum. I'll highlight some of the ground rules. The candidates will each present a 2-minute introductory statement, the order determined alphabetically by last name. Then questions will be asked, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Each candidate may opt to use up to 2 30-minute rebuttals. The candidates are not to interrupt each other and to speak to the audience. Closing statements and continuing alpha rotation will be 90 seconds. League members will keep time, and candidates will adhere to the time limits. Candidate, please notice the timers. When you see the stop sign, you may quickly finish your sentence. Our candidates this afternoon are Republican candidate Ronald Andermann and Democratic candidate Nicolle Grasse. So let's start with your opening statement, candidate Andermann.
Good afternoon. I'm Ron Andermann, candidate for the state representative in the 53rd District. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to participate in this forum. Next, I would like to thank the voters who will participate in the coming election. Illinois, once a great state, lags in so many areas. Chicago, once a strong second city, is now projected to be the 4th city. I could spend hours talking about cost of living, why our young, successful adult children choose jobs elsewhere, and a state that lags in growth of GDP, jobs, and wages. Since this is a voters' forum, instead let me speak to the voters in this room and Springfield's effort to limit their choice. You know, I'm not supposed to be here today. The voters in this room are not supposed to have a choice of candidates. Maybe these forums should be unnecessary. As part of several moves, my opponent was chosen to run unopposed after becoming an incumbent without earning a single vote for the Democratic Party bosses in a selection versus election process. I entered an election to give voters a choice. Soon after I entered, Springfield went into election interference mode. They trampled voters' rights by unconstitutionally changing a 200-year-old election law as if thieves in the night to eliminate voter choice. They asked no public comment from the voters, including the League of Women Voters, and attempted to remove 14 candidates from the ballot. I call this Springfield's own Project 2024, Springfield's threat to democracy. After unconstitutionally changing the law, Springfield lost in district court, lost in the Illinois Supreme Court, yet opposed me one more time. In the end, the League of Women Voters won, and I'm here to help Illinois.
Thank you. Candidate Grasse, your opening statement.
Thank you to the League of Women. Thank you. Can we start again? Sorry. How's this? Thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting together this forum. Ensuring people know who the candidates will represent is extremely important as we all prepare to cast our votes. My name is Nicolle Grasse. I am a hospice chaplain and elected village trustee in Arlington Heights, and since June, a state representative in the 53rd District. I have devoted my entire life to public service. I love people. I am a lifetime advocate for others. I grew up in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, the daughter of small business owners. I had a traditional childhood where it felt like the world was available to me, and I was in 3rd grade when I realized my world was not available to most everyone. It was then that I witnessed deep poverty, violence, and prejudice for others who were different. And I will always remember the life stories of those classmates of mine that forever changed how I understood my place in the world. These early experiences are what led me to a life of public service. And since then, I've worked to help make the world a better place for everyone. As an ordained minister and hospice chaplain for over 30 years, I support people from all walks of life in finding solutions to what matters most. I started hospice during the AIDS crisis with a frontline healthcare worker during the pandemic. And during all of this time, I have volunteered at the state, local, and federal levels to bring about legislative change and justice. As an elected village trustee, I've been accessible to all residents and businesses and collaborated to find solutions to needs such as affordable housing and maintaining public health and safety while always using taxpayer dollars responsibly. And as your state representative, I've been busy meeting with businesses, institutions, and residents to begin connections and understand top priorities. In all of my public service roles, I respectfully respond to people from all life experiences, cultures, political, and religious beliefs. I listen and involve them in creating responsible solutions to the problems that matter most. I am ready and excited to continue being your advocate for the 53rd District. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Grasse, what personal skill to the office?
Thank you. I think I touched a little bit on that, but as a hospice chaplain for almost 32 years, I have been tasked to meet people from all walks of life, all traditions, all cultures, all experiences, to respectfully meet with them, work with them, and find solutions that matter most together. I also bring to this position almost 3 decades of volunteer legislative work. I did a lot of work for Equality Illinois after the AIDS crisis. I was on the Government Affairs and Legislative Committee for the Illinois Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, but I've also been involved with various causes and issues. So I bring a lot of experience in the legislative, especially the advocative role for all people.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann, same question.
Yes, I'm actually, to my qualifications, I'm a licensed, professional engineer in Illinois, and actually an attorney. Those combined would be a thing called a patent attorney. I have over 30 years of experience in basically the energy industry, which largely is a critical factor for decisions made in Springfield nowadays. I really worry so much that there isn't a technical capability in the House of Representatives at this point to make those kind of decisions. So besides my technical background, I've had various management positions in the companies I have been. I've been very involved in a wide range of volunteer activities in the Arlington Heights areas, from Indian princesses to whatever.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann, what specific steps would you take to make Illinois move climate resilient? What specific steps would you take to make Illinois more climate resilient and adaptable to the effects of climate change?
Well, that's a very important question for me, because for me, for the last 25 years, I have to take continuing education courses at Springfield as a professional engineer, and we've studied the UN report over and over and over again. So I recently offered some insights to that report on my campaign website because kind of like COVID, COVID has had ultimate problems and multiple solutions, but you only heard about, very limited number of solutions. So actually in the UN climate report, you hear the summary where some of the conclusions are kind of cherry picked, but there's 11 different ways that they have even in their report to solve some of the climate issues. Some that are better fitted for Illinois, but they never get talked about. So I would bring some of those other conclusions in the UN report to bear in this state to make better decisions to better utilize our resources.
Thank you. Candidate Grasse, same question.
Thank you. I am grateful to have received the endorsement from Sierra Club, and I think they have a great way to start approaching ways we can adjust climate change, which is really the Ready for 100, which is about looking at clean energy and making that a priority of where we can move and how we can do that. I know that within our state, we have now started supporting a lot more of the electric vehicles, which has been a great start with that too. But I also think it's important just even from the local levels to start looking at what our individual actions can do, along with working with the industries and corporations to move from plastics to start using more sustainable ways of living life. And the other issue I do think is important to bring up is with the Supreme Court's overruling of the 1972 Clean Water Act, I think Illinois really is going to need to take serious responsibility to protect our waterways, our wetlands, and that will also be a very important part for climate change response.
Thank you. Candidate Grasse, what is your vision for increasing affordable housing or moderate cost housing in Illinois?
So as a hospice chaplain, I have to say the lack of affordable housing has been an issue I've heard my entire time with hospice. When somebody loses a spouse, when young families are wanting to move here to help take care of their loved ones, the difficulty in finding affordable housing has been real and constant. My work on the Village Board of Trustees, I have been a proud supporter of maintaining and helping bring in affordable housing to the community. And as a state representative, I will also do my best to continue to allow the incentives for developers to bring forth buildings that will include housing for all people, from affordable housing to housing for our veterans and people with disabilities. So I really look forward to bringing a lot of the things I've done as a trustee to the state level to really make that possible in multifamily developments through incentives especially. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann.
Yes, one of the big concerns for me is housing. I raised my family here. Actually, going back, my ancestors were all raised in the state, and I have grandchildren that I would like to bring up in the state, along with all the other people that we know peripherally that just can't afford housing. And I know firsthand that that's an issue of trying to sort housing costs out. And the problem with it, well, the problem is that nobody relies on what's happening in the free market. You take Illinois, we are taxing everything out of existence, basically. I mean, people that would maybe participate in these things because of taxes that have to be passed on to make housing less affordable is a constant problem. So I would look again as to ways to make things more economical for people and try to let the free market solve these problems, because if government steps in, it's just more cost and less housing.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann, how would you address the gun violence problem in schools?
My God, the violence problem in schools. Having my children and my grandchildren go through Illinois schools, it just tugs at my heart. I don't know exactly what the solution is, and I'm very faced with some of the violence. This wasn't exactly at the school, but my grandson was in Highland Park working the day of July 4th, about 2 weeks from 2 blocks from the shootings. So, I worry about the violence all the time. I worry about, mainly, in addition to that, all the firearms in the city and all the ongoing killing in Illinois decade after decade. And last, I worry about the glorification by Hollywood of weapons of destruction. And I came from a high school that had a gun range and training, so maybe somehow we have to teach our students.
Thank you. Candidate Grasse.
So I grew up in Northern Wisconsin, where gun safety and responsible gun use was a way of life, and I respect that. And I do believe that responsible gun owners feel the same. I am grateful for the support from Moms Today in Action and GPAC. I definitely believe in standing up to the gun lobby and putting forth common sense regulations that will help reduce guns getting into the hands of people who should not have them. There's a Carinas law that is out there that would prevent people convicted or responsible for domestic violence from having guns. So there's a lot of common sense gun reform measures that we can do and continue to do. And I will add, unfortunately, my daughter at her school her freshman year experienced a mass shooting. My hope is that I can continue to bring about common sense gun regulation and reform so that nobody else ever has to deal with the kind of trauma that was experienced by all of the students at Michigan State University and their families.
Thank you. Candidate Grasse. Under what conditions might you favor using tax dollars to fund the projects of private corporations or other for-profit organizations, for example, the Chicago Bears or White Sox?
Well, this has been a common question as an elected village trustee from my entire time I was elected to be on the board, so there's been a lot of talk about this. Personally, I do not support using taxpayer dollars to fund the stadium. Now, just as any other business in our state and communities, there is a place for taxpayer dollars to be a part of the infrastructure that is always a part of new businesses coming to town. So I'm open and receptive to conversations about what that might look like. But as far as public tax dollars being used to fund the Bears Stadium, I am not a supporter of that.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann.
Yes, I think that's one point that Candidate Grasse and myself agree upon, and no funding from the state for stadiums. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe limited funding in special infrastructure projects. I'm not sure exactly some of the ones that are currently in place if they're well thought out. But going back to the Bears situation, I shared earlier in a conversation about the Bears. The only reason they want to move to Arlington Heights is to be closer to Green Bay. But that being said, actually, if they move from Chicago, they're no longer the Chicago Bears. Just like Baltimore Colts, when they moved from Baltimore to Indianapolis, they were no longer the Baltimore Colts. So I wonder why Chicago Bears would want to go out of the city.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann, how will you work with and respond to the other side when in Springfield?
The other side as well.
The other side when in Springfield.
How would I respond to the other side? I mean, it's always a matter of sitting down and having a dialogue. It's not assuming that their position is untenable in any way. Everybody, I spent, decades in negotiations across the world, literally. And you can have vast differences as to where your starting points are, but unless you sit down, and personally I say sit down face to face, I don't even like Zoom calls, and get to know people and press the flesh, so to speak, as they used to say, you can find compromise, and that's always been the way, the American way, and that's how I would work with the other side if I was in Springfield.
I agree with Mr. Andermann in compromise is an important part, but as is meeting people civilly together to talk about the issues at hand. I am a believer that what affects one of us affects all of us, and that we have far more in common than we have that's different. And that is what I brought to everything as a hospice chaplain, as a elected village trustee, and even as a state representative as I've been knocking doors. And in fact, that's one issue I have heard time and time again at the doors. People are tired of this fighting and this stalemate and this partisan, sportsman-like reaction to things that matter to us. I have, as I mentioned before, as a hospice chaplain, I have had the decades of experience working with people of very different life experience and needs, and responsibly meeting with them, being civil, and working out issues and solutions together. And I will bring that continued response to the legislature as well.
Thank you. Candidate Grasse. What can be done to make our state more business friendly?
Oh, could you repeat that?
What can be done to make our state more business friendly?
So I think we're on a good start with the state. We have now run into our 6th balanced budget. We are starting to pay off the debt and get things in a better place going forward. I think we are starting to foster some really great economic growth with high-wage jobs. With our infrastructure, Rebuild Illinois, we're doing some really great things with the state to rebuild our bridges and provide high-paying jobs for our citizens and people. New innovation, we are really taking the beginning stages of quantum computing and seeing where that can take us. We have the gift of some of the most world-renowned universities in our state. We have so much available to us. We have Rivian coming with their electric vehicles. So we have a lot of great opportunities coming our way. I continue to support the Rebuild Illinois program and all this investing, and I think that we have a whole lot of great things coming with high-paying union jobs and other high-paid wages to build our future.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann.
If you haven't been paying attention, Illinois is hemorrhaging in loss of jobs. Hemorrhaging. If you look at the companies that left, it's unbelievable, from Boeing to Deere to Morton Salt. Companies are leaving like Quaker Oats, and you know, it's so bad, the local media up here in Northeast Illinois doesn't even report stuff that's being lost in some of these outlying parts of the state. People are leaving with those jobs. Educated, smart, young professionals. So we're definitely far, far behind. First of all, you have to straighten out the onerous tax and regulatory environment of the state. It's pathetic if you ever looked at it. No wonder companies are leaving. That has to change.
May I have a rebuttal?
Sure. 30-second rebuttal.
Thank you. I just had a brief rebuttal I wanted to add to that. One example that my opponent just brought up was the salt shed, the Morton Salt. I actually looked into the specifics of that, and the salt shed is now a music theater in our area that employs more people than Morton Salt did when it was here. So yes, it's true, we do have some industry leaving, but we have industry coming. And I want to say that those facts matter, and looking into the specifics do matter. Things change, but I find that Illinois is responding to the new changes, to the need for climate change in really exciting and wonderful ways.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann. What types of laws would you support to improve day-to-day living for low and moderate income families in Illinois?
Let me see if I got that. What laws I would change?
What types of laws would you support to improve day-to-day living for low and moderate income families in Illinois?
The type of laws that I would support laws that would support a family structure. Because I think the laws that support a family structure show over and over again that the family is really the key to the solution to the problems of poverty and elsewhere. So, you know, giving, handouts or welfare requirements that somehow would discourage that kind of environment would be something that I would work strongly against, because I believe strongly in family values and the nuclear family. I think some of the laws in the past have just divided the family and created a great rift, and now we have an increasing problem, probably homelessness, because of the kind of policies and laws we've had in place. So.
Thank you. Candidate Grasse.
So I wish the progressive tax would have passed, because that would have helped many of our lowest income families and ensure that our wealthiest and our corporations would have been paying their fair share. But if that comes up again, please know I will support that going forward. I think some other pieces of legislation that are beneficial in that are the child care tax credit that has just come about. Full day kindergarten will also help some of our low-income families be able to provide for the cost of child care. And also different legislation to decrease healthcare costs, caps on prescriptions. There are a lot of different laws we can do that can help with some of the concerns for our people who are lower income.
Thank you.
Yes.
30 seconds.
You're going to answer the question, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna respond.
1 minute.
Yeah,
No, 30 seconds.
Oh, we can talk. Okay.
30 seconds. Another solution, just more taxes. Is that the only way we're going to solve all our social problems, is to have more taxes? I would say try to reduce taxes on those families and give them a break. You know, there's been some discussion that to help people with mental health problems, for example, give them a tax break in some of their areas instead of finding more ways to tax people.
Thank you. Candidate Grasse, what are your views regarding women's access to reproductive health?
So I remain committed to reproductive rights. Access to affordable and accessible reproductive health care is a human right. So that is something that I will continue to work for and support. I am grateful to have the support of Planned Parenthood and Personal PAC in my support of reproductive rights. So I will continue to do that and continue to strengthen what we have available in Illinois to help all women and men.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann?
Yes, I support reproductive rights, having children and grandchildren. Of course, I respect those rights. Those rights involve complex questions, decisions of bringing a child into the world in many different ways, including adoption. But I would like to support reproductive rights in terms of efforts that have been made on the conservative side for like pregnancy clinics, which the state is trying to put additional limits on. Consider this, the decision on reproductive rights is very difficult for a woman, but if she should decide, one of the options should be adoption. So I'll submit to you as evidence as important of that is names like Simone Biles, Steve Jobs, Bill Clinton, Faith Hill, Dave Thomas, my favorite because of his chili. They were all adopted people, right? And they were, if you look at their situations, they were at possibly could have been not come into this world without adoptive help.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann, what can be done to address the impacts of undocumented migration?
What can be done? You know, it's kind of an amazing problem to me that people don't see the light of this. I mean, I study a lot of history, particularly in Illinois, and there's always been a long history in immigration that communities had a certain budget pretty much that helped the poor people in their area. And that, you know, undocumented immigration was actually kind of thing that was written out of laws. I mean, most of our families that probably come here, our ancestors, had to have some kind of support when they came here. Undocumented immigrants have a big impact on the poor, and it's really putting the poor as a pawn. So we just have to follow established immigration laws. We were at an all-time high in terms of legal immigration before the current crisis.
Thank you. Candidate Grasse?
So as a hospice chaplain through these decades, I have come to know and love many undocumented immigrants. And we are a country of immigrants. Who we are is because of so many wonderful talents experiences, expertise that the immigrants have brought to our country. And I will continue to support a humanitarian approach to the bad actors in the Southern Republican states who are sending these human beings to us, using them as political pawns. Until this is a federal issue where we need to get a response from the federal government to address the border crisis. Unfortunately, we did have a bipartisan approach that was ready to go that our presidential candidate did not want to have passed so that it would help his campaign. But this is a federal issue, but while we can't control bad actors, we can control and provide a humanitarian, responsible approach to suffering human beings who are coming here. And I support all that we can do for that.
Thank you. Cameron.
Somebody's already answered.
Oh, sorry.
I don't get it all. I had a senior moment there.
See, and I'm reading this question that is very long, so I apologize. I'm your first. Illinois state law obligates the state to increase pension contributions each year from $6.9 billion in 2015, which is 45% funded, to $18.2 billion in 2045, which is 90% funded. How do you envision this happening?
Well, you know, the sad reality is that, you know, the state budget is largely driven by, you know, income taxes. You know, as a necessity, maybe you have to stay to have a balanced budget. But, you know, it would ideally, I think like other corporations and you know, companies I work with, if you have an imbalance in your budget, you attack those problems where the imbalance is. I mean, it's not unheard of that corporations have gone, you know, into financial difficulty, and they have to restructure their pension liability. I know that's very difficult in this state, and that's why I offer the first solution. I would like to see a structural change that will probably take a lot more work and a lot more time, and we'll have to negotiate and see how that comes out.
Thank you. Candidate Grasse.
Could you please repeat the question? I know it's a long one, sorry.
Illinois state law obligates the state to increase pension contributions each year from $6.9 billion in 2015, which is 45% funded, to $18.2 billion in 2045, 90% funded. How do you envision this happening?
So, first off, I am a huge supporter of public education, and it's not just because I love and married a public school teacher and my daughter's studying to be one. It is critical to having an informed citizenry and workforce, and just for people to have the quality of life that they have. I believe a pension is a promise. There is a lot of things that have happened in the past because of state governors and legislators who did not pay their fair share. The good news is that we are working to better fund that through evidence-based funding. We are starting to make up what was not paid for in the past. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. We had many, many years of not paying into our system that we are having to fix. But it's looking to be, I think, 2027, we should be at a better place for better funding that will also help with the tax base for our communities, but ensure that our teachers and our schools and our pensions are supported.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann. Our access to safe water is threatened by flooding due to our changed climate and our old infrastructure. What plans do you have to protect our water?
Well, I think being in a technical field, things always age and are always in need of being repaired and updated in a logical and sound way. It isn't caused by anything in particular. Adaptation is not an existential threat that we have to adapt and we have to look at our roads and whatever other infrastructure and clean water. The Environmental Protection Agency has done an exceedingly good job of keeping clean water and clean environment in the United States. My biggest disappointment in terms of a clean environment is, we import so many products from overseas that are produced by really bad technologies and bad water quality that actually come and affect people worldwide. You might not see it quite as directly here, but you know that is an issue that.
Thank you. Nicolle Grasse.
Could you please repeat the question again? I'm hearing some reverb, so it's a little hard to hear it.
Our access to safe water is threatened by flooding due to our changed climate and old infrastructure. What plans do you have to protect our water?
Well, there already are some great plans in place. I believe that clean drinking water is a human right. Our aging infrastructure, I think, is a huge piece of the concerns. And I know many communities, both from the state and federal level, have requirements to replace the lead pipes that are currently in place. Arlington Heights, unfortunately, because of the time in which it was built, has one of the largest numbers of lead lines within our district. Whereas Rolling Meadows, as part of our district, I think only has 600 lead lines. Arlington Heights has thousands. So I fully support the continued replacement of those lines. As far as flooding, that also is a part of a lot of the local and municipal water groups and people to work on ways that we can do better drainage and protect any flooding that can affect our water.
Thank you. Nicolle Grasse. What do you see as the biggest cause for the current teacher shortage? And as a member of the legislature, how would you work to address it?
So I had a number of recent meetings with different teachers lately as a state representative, and I'm hearing the same thing over and over. Lack of respect for teachers and just the attacks that have come about, but most importantly, the pension and the pay difference and the benefits. Those are some of the biggest issues that are affecting whether people want to teach or stay teaching. So I think the state is already on a good place in working toward fixing the Tier 2 pension issue, which is, I think, the biggest issue for a lot of our teachers and also municipal employees. But so I think that's a first start for us to begin to help with that situation.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann.
Yeah, in terms of education in general, and like so many things in life, you know, and it sounds like the problem with the teachers that they aren't coming out, it's a matter of choice. You know, they are choosing not to do, you know, to teach, I assume, the shortage mainly in public schools. I don't hear shortages in some of the local private schools around here. I haven't heard that cry, so I assume it's mainly in the public schools. So, you know, there's something going on here that, you know, you just can't, if people aren't entering a job market for some reason, there's got to be a reason for that. And whether we want to throw more money at another solution for getting teachers, find an environment that will encourage them to participate in the process.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann, what legislation do you support or propose to address the mental health epidemic and needs to access health care?
Mental health and healthcare in general is a problem, but particularly mental health. If you look at some of the NAMI statistics, they say that 1 in 5 families, 1 in 5 people face severe mental health issues of some sort during their life. And if you consider that 1 in 4, the average family size is 4, that means that 80% of the families are faced with this problem. It's a huge problem. I know a lot of people that have faced this problem. And one of the biggest things that would probably help some of these health problems is that you help the families, help these people. Because if you let the state step in, you'll end up with what Sheriff Dart has down in the Cook County lockup, where most people are just warehoused.
So as a hospice chaplain, I have experienced firsthand the higher incidence of people needing and wanting mental health services and being unable to find it or afford it. So this is a huge issue, not only for me, but for the people I talk to when I'm knocking the doors. I think that One thing I would love to see is to make mental health care be a mandated part of insurance, both public and private insurance companies, and really make sure that it's accessible for all of us. The other local area for additional mental health support is our 708 mental health boards. And the people voted for a recent 708 mental health board in the township where I live, and other communities have had great success with that. So I'm hoping that ours can start providing additional mental health services for our community soon as well.
Thank you. Our time is almost up, so let's go to closing statements. Candidate Grasse, you're first.
First, I want to again thank the league and moderator and all of you in attendance for your participation at this forum. Again, my name is Nicolle Grasse. I have devoted my life to public service. I love people, community building, and working to make our world a better place for everyone. I bring a wealth of skills and experience responding to human needs and finding solutions together. When I first ran for village trustee over 4 years ago, I talked to many people to learn the specific needs and interests of our community. And now in the final year of my serving on the board, I continue to advocate for all of the people and businesses while still learning from them. And since being appointed state rep, I've been meeting with institutions, agencies, businesses, and residents to best understand our district needs and what we can work on together. All of the information I have gathered during this time from our district I've turned into my campaign so that when I get back to Springfield, I can represent all of us in our district. As a hospice chaplain, village trustee, state representative, and advocate for others, I bring the foundational belief that what affects one of us affects all of us, and that we need each other in life. That's how we get through life. And I believe that when we set aside our differences and find common ground to work together, we can really accomplish wonderful solutions together that benefit all of us. I believe this, and I ask for your vote. Please know it will be my honor to continue to represent all of you in the 53rd District.
Thank you. Candidate Andermann.
Again, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters, my voting, and those who will vote in the coming election. I believe in the United States, a republic of 50 states. I believe in the founding documents, and I'm not burdened by what has been. The state of Illinois is dear to me, one of 50 laboratories of democracies, as described by one U.S. Supreme Court justice. One of 50 workshops that's falling behind, poorly ranked behind other states in growth of GDP, jobs, and wages, never-ending murder rates in our biggest cities, a tax burden and cost of living that makes Illinois unmovable for many of our most promising young adult families and friends, and educational outcomes such as 11th grade math proficiency at 26.7 that is nothing less than child abuse. All of us, Springfield moves with heightened ambition to control and limit choices. All of us forgetting that our fellow citizens' ultimate exercise of choice is leading the state. I am here to put choice back in the hands of the citizens of Illinois and the obvious decline of the state. Thank you for your vote, and I look forward to representing you in Springfield.
Our time is up for this forum. If you like what you see in this nonpartisan program, please visit LWV-AH.org to get to know your league better. For more information, please visit the nonpartisan voter guide, illinoisvoterguide.org, the candidates' websites, as well as your League of Women Voters at LWV-AH.org. Your league is also on Facebook and Insta. Check them out. Your participation as a candidate and a voter is essential to preserving the democracy we hold dear. Please remember to vote on or before November 5th, as one vote can decide the election and that one vote can be yours. Let's give these candidates a round.